Today, we're diving into a case that's shaking up the streets and the headlines. Big U and Bricc Baby, two names that carry serious weight in the world of hip-hop and street culture, are now at the center of a major indictment. But who exactly are these figures, and why does this case matter so much? Big U is a well-known community figure with ties to the entertainment industry, while Bricc Baby is a rising rapper whose name has been buzzing in the scene and was also close friends with the late great Nipsey Hussle. Together, their alleged connections and activities have landed them in the crosshairs of law enforcement, and the details are nothing short of shocking. What led to this indictment and how it could impact not just their lives, but also the broader music and street culture communities. You don't want to miss this. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Underworld Icons, more deep dives into the stories that shape the underbelly of crime and culture. Let's get into it. Background on Big U and Bricc Baby. Big U, whose real name is Eugene Henley, is a name that resonates deeply within both the streets and the entertainment world. As a prominent figure in Los Angeles, he's known for his influence in the community, particularly in South Central. Over the years, Big U has worn many hats. He's been a mentor to up-and-coming artists, a community organizer, and a controversial figure with a history tied to the streets. He's often been credited with helping bridge the gap between the music industry and neighborhoods that have long been plagued by violence and limited opportunities. Big U's work with at-risk youth and his public advocacy for peace within the community have garnered both praise and scrutiny. While he's been portrayed as a leader who has tried to bring about change, his name has also surfaced in whispers and accusations about ties to the underworld. On the other hand, Bricc Baby, also known as Bricc Baby Chitro, is an emerging artist making waves in the rap scene. Hailing from the streets of Los Angeles, his music paints a raw picture of the struggles and realities of life in inner-city neighborhoods. His lyrics often reflect his personal experiences, making him a voice for many who feel their stories are overlooked. With a growing fan base and collaborations with other high-profile artists, Bricc Baby has been on a steady rise in the industry. But with fame often comes scrutiny, and Bricc Baby's name has been associated with affiliations that some say go beyond the music. His ties to the streets have been both a badge of authenticity in his career and a source of controversy in his public image. The paths of Big U and Bricc Baby, while rooted in different eras of Los Angeles culture, are interconnected through their shared background and connections within the city's tight-knit networks. Both men have garnered attention not just for their individual achievements, but also for the relationships they've cultivated within the community and the music world. However, these relationships are now under the microscope as authorities dig deeper into the activities surrounding them. This isn't the first time either of their names has been tied to controversy. Big U's past includes brushes with the law, with a history that stretches back to his younger days. While he's publicly worked to change the narrative around himself, those past associations have continued to follow him, raising questions about whether he ever truly left that life behind. Bricc Baby, being part of a younger generation, has faced his own challenges, balancing a music career with the shadow of street affiliations that have yet to loosen their grip on his reputation. The indictment marks a significant moment, not just for these two men, but for the wider culture they represent. With law enforcement making bold moves to crack down on what they describe as organized criminal activity, this case is shaping up to be more than just a legal battle. It's becoming a focal point in the ongoing conversation about the intersection of music, identity, and the streets. Charges and legal battle unfold. The indictment against Big U and Bricc Baby has sent shockwaves through both the music and street culture worlds. According to court documents, the charges against the two include conspiracy to commit racketeering, drug trafficking, and weapons possession. Law enforcement alleges that these charges are connected to a broader investigation into organized criminal activity in Los Angeles. This case, the culmination of a multi-year operation, has been described by authorities as an effort to dismantle networks they believe are responsible for violence and illegal activities across the region. The investigation began several years ago, with law enforcement reportedly tracking the movements, communications, and associates of various individuals tied to alleged gang activity in Los Angeles. Big U and Bricc Baby were reportedly brought into the investigation after authorities identified them as central figures within overlapping networks. Sources close to the case suggest that wiretaps, surveillance footage, and financial records have been used to build the prosecution's case. Big U is alleged to have played a leadership role in facilitating connections between individuals in the streets and other areas of influence, including the music industry. While his public efforts have centered on community advocacy and mentorship, prosecutors claim there's a darker side to his activities. They accuse him of using his influence to protect and promote certain illegal enterprises, particularly those involving narcotics distribution. The indictment outlines multiple instances where Big U was allegedly involved in coordinating meetings, arranging protection for illicit operations, and directing resources to maintain control over specific territories. Bricc Baby, on the other hand, is being accused of actively participating in the transportation and distribution of controlled substances, as well as being in possession of firearms during these activities. Prosecutors argue that his rise in the music industry provided a platform for laundering money and gaining access to a wider network of potential collaborators in illegal ventures. Evidence presented so far includes images from his social media accounts, which prosecutors allege depict coded messages and affiliations with individuals known to law enforcement. One of the key pieces of evidence in this case appears to be intercepted communications. Prosecutors claim they have recordings of phone calls and messages in which both men allegedly discuss plans related to drug shipments, the distribution of funds, and managing conflicts within their circles. Additionally, financial records tied to Big U and Bricc Baby are said to reveal suspicious transactions, with large sums of money moving through accounts that prosecutors believe are linked to criminal proceeds. The timeline leading to the indictment suggests that law enforcement had been building their case for quite some time. A series of raids earlier this year reportedly led to the recovery of significant amounts of cash, narcotics, and illegal firearms, which authorities believe are tied to the case. Witnesses and informants have also come forward, according to court filings, providing detailed accounts of alleged activities involving both Big U and Bricc Baby. These testimonies are expected to play a major role as the case moves forward. Despite the gravity of the charges, both men have maintained their innocence through their legal teams. Statements from Big U's representatives argue that he has been unfairly targeted due to his past and his visibility as a public figure. They claim that the evidence is circumstantial and that his work in the community has been misinterpreted as something nefarious. Similarly, Bricc Baby's team has denied any involvement in criminal activities, emphasizing that his career is focused on music and that any associations with individuals involved in illegal activities are purely coincidental. Legal experts following the case have noted the complexity of the indictment, as it not only involves Big U and Bricc Baby, but also implicates several other individuals connected to the same investigation. The prosecution is expected to paint a picture of a sprawling network with deep roots in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, defense attorneys are likely to challenge the credibility of witnesses and the validity of evidence, such as wiretaps, which they argue may have been obtained improperly. As the legal proceedings unfold, the stakes couldn't be higher for Big U and Bricc Baby. If convicted, they could face decades in prison, marking a dramatic shift in their lives and careers. Beyond the personal consequences, this case could also have a lasting impact on the music industry and the broader culture, raising questions about the often complicated intersection of art, authenticity, and the street ties that so often shape an artist's narrative. The cultural conflict: art versus reality. For years, hip-hop has been criticized for glorifying street life, violence, and criminal activity. Detractors argue that the genre not only celebrates these elements, but in some cases, exploits them for commercial gain. However, this critique overlooks the deeper complexities of hip-hop, particularly the way it reflects the real struggles of marginalized communities. Artists like Big U and Bricc Baby represent a more complicated layer of this discussion because they don't just sing or rap about the streets, they are products of the streets. Their stories, deeply rooted in the neighborhoods they grew up in, are often raw, gritty, and real. The problem arises when these real-life stories are packaged and marketed, often distorting the lines between art, reality, and the commercial interests at play. For many artists, the connection between their music and the streets is part of their authenticity. It's often seen as the foundation of their credibility and connection to their fan base, which in many cases shares similar experiences. Hip-hop, as a genre, has always celebrated the narrative of making it out of the hood, turning struggles into success. But it also has a long-standing tradition of recognizing the hardships of inner-city life: drugs, violence, and systemic inequalities. Artists like Bricc Baby use their platforms to reflect these harsh realities. But the question remains, is this merely storytelling, or is it an endorsement of the lifestyle that often comes with these struggles? This duality has caused tension in the relationship between hip-hop and the mainstream public, particularly law enforcement. On one side, authorities view the glorification of street culture in hip-hop as a dangerous influence, potentially encouraging illegal activity among youth. The hypervisibility of street culture in music videos, social media, and lyrics becomes a focal point for law enforcement, who see it as promoting criminal behavior. The FBI's long-standing surveillance of hip-hop artists is one example of how street narratives in music have been criminalized, regardless of whether the artist is actually involved in any illicit activities. On the other side, fans and artists themselves argue that these stories are often the only way to make sense of a harsh reality, one that many are forced to endure in urban areas where opportunities are scarce and violence is prevalent. Hip-hop gives voice to the voiceless, offering a platform for those who feel excluded from the broader narrative of the American dream. For many in these communities, street life is not glorified, but simply the reality they know, a reality shaped by poverty, disenfranchisement, and a lack of opportunities. When artists like Bricc Baby rap about drugs, violence, and the struggles they face, it's not about promoting these activities, but about telling the truth of their lives. The question arises, though, whether society, and more specifically, law enforcement, can separate the art from the artist. Can they view the music as a reflection of life, not as an endorsement of the life it describes? The ongoing tension between law enforcement and hip-hop culture has been part of the genre's DNA for decades. From the FBI's 1989 warning about the group NWA to the 2019 case involving Kodak Black's arrest, the music industry and street culture have frequently collided with the law. However, the case against Big U and Bricc Baby represents a significant shift in this dynamic. What was once a cultural debate about art and expression has now evolved into a criminal investigation. The blurred lines between art and reality, the authenticity of street narratives, and the real-life consequences of maintaining street ties are now under the microscope. This isn't just about whether a rapper's lyrics reflect their life. It's about whether those life experiences and affiliations are criminalized in the court of public opinion, or worse, in a courtroom. Implications of the case on culture and crime. The indictment of Big U and Bricc Baby carries significant implications that extend beyond the courtroom, reaching into their community and the music industry, and potentially sparking wider investigations into similar cases. For their community, this case reopens old wounds tied to systemic issues of crime and the relationship between law enforcement and historically underserved neighborhoods. Big U, known for his advocacy and efforts to guide young people away from violence, has long been seen as a polarizing figure. While some view him as a mentor who leveraged his past to bring about positive change, others argue that his past ties to the streets cast doubt on the intentions behind his actions. The indictment could reshape how his work is perceived, potentially undermining programs he has been involved in and creating ripple effects that disrupt local efforts to curb violence and build trust between communities and institutions. For the music industry, this case represents yet another example of how ties to the streets often intersect with the careers of artists and those around them. Bricc Baby's rise as a rapper has been closely tied to his portrayal of raw, street-inspired narratives. Fans often see such authenticity as a critical part of an artist's appeal, but this indictment raises questions about where the line is drawn between personal experience and active involvement in criminal activities. If the prosecution's claims hold up in court, this case could reignite debates about whether the music industry inadvertently provides cover for illegal activities, or if artists are unfairly targeted because of their backgrounds and lyrics. For younger artists, this could serve as a cautionary tale, potentially influencing how they navigate their public personas and the connections they maintain while trying to build their careers. From a law enforcement perspective, this case could set a precedent for how similar investigations are conducted in the future. Authorities have emphasized the use of tools like wiretaps, surveillance, and financial tracking to build their case, methods that could become more common in tackling alleged networks involving high-profile individuals. However, the reliance on such evidence also raises ethical and legal concerns, as defense teams are likely to challenge the validity of the methods used to gather this information. If the prosecution succeeds, it could embolden future operations, but if they fail, it might fuel public skepticism about overreach and potential targeting of individuals based on their visibility rather than clear evidence of wrongdoing. The community at large will likely bear the brunt of the fallout. Both Big U and Bricc Baby have significant followings, and the case has already sparked divisive reactions. For some, it reinforces negative stereotypes about their neighborhood and its prominent figures. For others, it's a reminder of the challenges faced when trying to break free from the associations of the past. As these proceedings unfold, they could deepen divides between the music world, law enforcement, and communities struggling with long-standing issues tied to poverty and violence. Ultimately, this case isn't just about two men. It's a flashpoint for larger conversations about the intersection of art, identity, and systemic issues that have persisted for generations. While the outcome remains uncertain, the implications of this indictment will likely be felt far beyond the courtroom, shaping perceptions and actions in multiple spheres for years to come. The story of Big U and Bricc Baby's indictment is one with layers of complexity, touching on the intersections of music, community, and law enforcement. We've covered their backgrounds, their alleged activities, the details of the charges, and the broader implications this case might have on the industry and beyond. It's a situation that raises tough questions about how success, identity, and street ties collide in ways that can't be ignored. Whether they're ultimately found guilty or not, the impact of this case will undoubtedly ripple through their lives, their careers, and the communities that look to them, for better or worse. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this case? Do you think it's a fair investigation, or do you see it as another example of hip-hop culture being unfairly targeted? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm reading all of them. And while you're at it, don't forget to smash that like button. Share this video with your friends, and subscribe to Underworld Icons for more in-depth stories about the intersection of crime and culture. If you like this video, check out the next video. Click the video above.